Hola, soy Gaston Ibarroule and welcome to my studio in Berlin. I started learning music when I was in primary school with my teacher Pablo. We used to sing in a choir, we used to play the guitar with them. That's how I started learning music and playing, and then I started playing with friends and started having more and more to do with different instruments and playing around and just having fun at the beginning. I remember that when I started making music it was mainly love songs, and it was in high school. I come from a smaller city in Argentina, and I started learning traditional songs, listening to traditional songs from Argentina, folklore and also tango. At the moment I'm in Berlin, Germany, and I came here visiting at the beginning, and then I stayed when I realized that it was very positive for my development as both a musician, composer, and also in the film industry. My studio is located in Neukölln in Berlin, and here music is composed, and I can record some instruments, I can record voices. I also compose, produce and edit music for film and for different types of productions. Now I would like to share with you how I approach a whole project. Fortunately, I'm working on this project from Signature Studios, a production company in Berlin. It's a documentary about Maradona's funeral, which was a spontaneous gathering in the city center of Buenos Aires. So let's dive in. When I open a project, usually all of this is empty, and it only comes with this over here, that came from the edit. This is usually transferred by a type of file that's called AAF or OMF. It's what the editors gives us, the sound people, to continue a project. In this case, the dialogue was recorded on camera and it was quite noisy. So with some help of denoising, we come from this
Lo que muere con este gigante.
To this.
Lo que muere con este gigante.
In my first step for dialogue editing, I would go in, check what I have, and start cutting. Usually the cuts and the fades are the first thing that I will do, and that way I will have a consistent sound and I will know what it's needed to be processed. What we managed to do is reduce some of that noise on the background from the city to be able to bring the voice up and not have to bring all the city with that voice. In that way we can mix it better with whatever comes afterwards, the ambiences which we really chose, the effects, the music. The three main pieces of gear that I use constantly, and I couldn't live without them now. The first one is my guitar. I play and compose and understand music through my guitar still. Even if I play different instruments, that's my first go-to instrument, even for creating melodies, playing around. My second piece of gear, it's work in progress still, it always is, I believe, are my studio monitors, because they are very important for me to be able to know what I'm recording, editing and mixing. And the third piece of gear, which helped a lot in the past months to become more efficient and faster and go through my workflow quicker and smoother, it's a mixture between software and hardware, which is Stream Deck as a controller and SoundFlow as a software with a great community behind of it. After the dialogue editing, where I got a feeling where the movie is going and how I can support that, I started composing the music. So here I will show you the different pad layers that I worked with. So these are the different layers of pads. This is a more glassy one that I chose. The second one I use is a little bit deeper and it's more of a synth vibe. It's more open, it has more information in all the spectrum. And the third one I used is more to bring out the moments and the details, like this. Studio monitors are very important in our line of work in music production, mixing and film, because they have to show or they should show the truth behind your recordings and mixes, to be able to translate into different systems and also to be able to work on the different difficulties that an audio source can have. Usually when I'm editing sound for film, I work with monitors because of the immersiveness of a surround system, for example. Also because I prefer to work long hours without something on my head constantly. But for example, when it comes down to controlling the low end or listening to the low end of different sound effects or music instruments, then I sometimes go back into the headphones to listen clearly to that and then come back to the monitors. It's a mixture in my workflow. Another element of the music which came into play was a bandoneon. It's a type of concertina or accordion that is very popular in Argentinian and Uruguayan music. This is how it sounds. Coming from a musical background, the jump to sound design wasn't a difficult one at all. Also because I am a person who likes to tell stories and who likes to think on concept. Fortunately, I was quickly able to work with friends and contacts in Berlin when I first came here, and that was for me a very important aspect into getting into bigger jobs, bigger projects, bigger gigs. So in a way to achieve a transition between the different narrative parts of the short film, we also start introducing more elements, because we're going from a very subtle part into a fuller one, and with more elements and more energy. I start bringing in more and more elements into a transition. So this would be, for example, one of them, which is a bass that comes in. And in all together it sounds like this, with the voice too.
Salir de Fiorito y llegar a todo el mundo.
So when I came back one day to visit my family in Argentina, I watched Dark Season 1. And when I watched it, I was, wow, I need to know who's working on this. I love this series. And when I went into the platforms from Germany where I found the professionals, unfortunately they were all based in Munich, and I thought that it wouldn't be possible, so I left it. So when I came back and started working on the music and the sound design for a documentary film from a friend of mine, my friend told me that he got Thomas Calver involved as a dialogue editor for the documentary, and since we worked very closely and as a team for the documentary, then Thomas turned out to be the dialogue editor for Dark Season 1, and he got me involved for Dark Season 2 and 3 while he supervised the dialogue editing team. So working for a Netflix production like Dark was very challenging. There was a lot to learn and a lot to deliver in a very professional environment, and that's something that motivated me from the beginning, and I was very happy to be a part of such an amazing team. When working for such a production like Dark, teamwork becomes very important because you are a part of a big chain. And in the end of this section, before going into the most energetic part of the short film, we brought in more of this bandoneon in a different harmonic. The transition sounds like this in the end. You might have also heard a new element that came in, which is a type of metallic sound. It's some processed sample of this drum that is used in popular music in Argentina, and it's a detail that I used to also connect to the next part, where it's mainly used. The next part brings new elements in, and it changes quite a lot. So dialogue editing is what happens, in that sense, the first position of the sound post-production chain, because it's exactly after the image is completely edited, and we organize and clean up and make a constant soundtrack for the film. The next step in the chain will be to mix it with all the parallel work that has been going on. For example, sound effects, ambiences, music production and composition, and all the different layers that compose, in that sense, the soundtrack of a film or an episode or a series. So some other elements that were missing were people singing and this feeling of crowd and fanatics from Maradona who were getting together, and I put those into my effects so I can mix them separately depending on the music and depending on the ambiences and some other elements that were important for those moments. So if we hear all together now without the music. Remember, you can find in the description of the video a link to the finished short film, and I hope this brings you forward. I hope this gives you some ideas on organizing your own projects, and see you in the next time.